trap, kid. That was 1 in a million.
So we stand in the presence of glory.
I'm in a bar, and it's a bar that had Carl Weathers in it, so that's pretty good to me.
Tide is turning. I think we're on the side of common sense and truth, so that's always the winning side to me, whatever happens. We talked about it last night. The tide was turning a couple of years ago, and they got a false extension, during COVID, during the Summer of Love, those very peaceful riots when America was burning down and Hollywood was rooting it on. After Hollywood had divided the nation through their scripts and their adult pretenders being idiots and demonizing half the country. So now they put that off for a couple of years, which was 2019 woke stuff was failing already. Terminator Dark Fate's a great example.
Okay.
It's like the worst subversion of an intellectual property you'll ever see personified in like the first 5 minutes, where they kill
John
Connor in the first 5 minutes with the CGI de-aged Edward Furlong, and it actually looked pretty good. The CGI
pretty good, yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, but then it destroys the Terminator franchise. That was written by James Cameron, by the way. So it was already on its way out. Then, of course, we get the great reset happening over the next 2 years. But the reason they extended that for 2 years, that's something that was naturally dying anyway. Now it's just gonna die harder, for lack of a better term. It's gonna go down in flames and cost them millions. And as Drinker was saying, it was only a matter of time. It was if you followed comic books, if you're a nerd for any amount of time, you would see like you're subverting everything. And you can't continue to subvert stories and expect to make money off them. They were already established. You can't subvert Luke Skywalker. You can't subvert Han Solo. You can't try to erase Captain Kirk, which is what Paramount is trying to do right now. It's not going to win. That's Star Trek is Captain Kirk. Star Wars is Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. And it's not much after that. And they're finding that out. And they thought they could make their own stories for a modern audience that doesn't exist. The modern audience is the same as the old audience. We just like good stuff. But I don't think it's going to happen with any of this modern. I don't think people are going to look back at the Disney sequel trilogy going, we were a little bit harsh. No, we weren't harsh enough. That would be my looking back on it, especially after The Force Awakens. But we're at the end of this era now. So now we're just watching the collapse. They're not even coming, like Hollywood collectively is coming out with half the entertainment they did last year. Overall, we're talking TV shows and films. And, I put up the list in my last video. Of the tentpole releases this year, only 4 are not sequels or prequels or attached to a previous franchise. You can't call them original because a couple of them are adapting books, but there's out of 4 all the year. That's it. Everything else is like a 3rd and 4th sequel. It's not even 2. We're in 3s and 4s. Despicable Me 4, Furiosa, which is looks terrible.
Mad Max.
A prequel nobody wanted.
A prequel nobody wanted.
With a strong female character.
Right.
Finally.
I hear finally.
We've been waiting 10 years for this.
I don't need to see Mad Max in my Mad Max movie.
Yeah.
He's the patriarchy.
We don't need Luke Skywalker.
We don't need Luke Skywalker and Star Wars. A movie star is just for the youngsters in the audience, is a star like, I'm going to go see this Tom Cruise movie. I'm going to go see this Sylvester Stallone movie. Don't care what the movie's about. It's Sylvester Stallone shooting people. That's what we used to go see movies for. That's a movie star. Or it's a great actor. Back in the day when Al Pacino was in his prime, or Robert De Niro was in the prime, or Jack Nicholson, you would go see those movies for their actual acting. We don't have actors anymore. That's why I say adult pretenders. We have influencers. We have people who take the role, like Brie Larson, who takes the role of Captain Marvel to be a platform, not to be a role.
So when was the last time you said, I'm going to go see that Chris Pratt movie, right? I guess, not talking on Chris Pratt. I really like Chris Pratt, based on what I know, which is not much. But I've never said, show me that Chris Pratt movie.
No,
right?
No.
Where like the Schwarzenegger is bigger than the title of the movie, right? That's inverted.
We'd go see crappy Schwarzenegger movies because he was in it.
Yes.
And as far as the modern movie star is concerned, we got to know them. Social media. So they would annoy us once a year at an award show and bloviate about something stupid. But now we get to hear him every single day. Like Mark Hamill, I wouldn't even want to see him play Luke Skywalker again.
Yes.
I can't stand the dude. The dude's insufferable on Twitter, and I don't even follow him.
Talk about failure to launch.
Yeah.
Like Rachel Ziegler's was supposed to be the next thing.
Ouch. Yeah.
And then she got on social media.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think you can correct that ship. Maybe I'm wrong.
No,
I don't think so. Or it's going to take a long time.
a lot of humility. It would take her to come out and say I was wrong. Which good luck. It would work. It would actually work, but they just their ego will not allow them to do that. Same with corporations. All they have to do is Kathleen Kennedy comes out. This was 10 years. This is 5 years ago. This ship has sailed. But if she came out 5 years ago and went, we f***ed up. Sorry for this language, but we demonize the fans. We shouldn't have done that. We're going to try to make the best Star Wars possible. And from here on out, any of our actors, any of our creators will just talk about how much they love Star Wars, and they're going to do the best they can.
And I resign.
Problem over.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, and I resign. Problem over.
Yeah.
In
I'm
24
going to put on a
hours.
Jar Jar Binks costume of shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk through the streets, and you're all going to be able to shout shame at me, and like Game of Thrones scene.
Yeah.
And I think you could have actually won. I think that actually a lot of people would have respected that.
Everybody would have
and
respected
a
it.
genuine apology. It's hard
Yeah.
to still be mad at someone when they've
Yes.
demonstrated both of those things, but they won't because their standard MO is just to double down on what they've done before and just keep going.
That's where risk averse comes in. So it's risk averse. It's easier to demonize half of your paying customers than be called a racist. Because if Kathleen Kennedy had done that, then the people within her own organization would have called her out for bending the knee to the chuds and the right wing and the alt-right and all that
Yeah,
BS
that's right.
that they started.
Oh,
so
man.
it's their lie. It's their negative. And like Hollywood was, I don't want to say sold a lie. I don't want to absolve them of any responsibility. They willingly bought into the lie of DEI and brought that in identity politics, and they thought that was the way to go and make money. Of course, we heard the head of BlackRock say we're forcing behaviors because they're completely open about what they're trying to do and socially engineer. And it was a bunch of like-minded people going, sure. Is it a vast conspiracy? No, it's a conspiracy of idiots and incompetence and lack of creativity. There's no talent left. All the talent's being driven out. We're hearing that if you follow Film Threat, they're going to be covering it the rest of the year, pretty much. And you're going to hear anonymous people from the Film Actors Guild, the Writers Guild of America, and all the other guilds saying we're not down with this. We're forced into it because we're afraid of our own union. So, it's they willingly bought into it, and now they're going to go broke.
You can do better, Senator.
And the fact
I just
that
couldn't believe that scene.
it is, and like it's been going on for almost a decade now. We're at 8 years in since 2015, 2016 when this really started. It's been there, but it never like ruled Hollywood, and now it absolutely rules Hollywood. And they're just starting to figure it out 8 years in when some of us were calling it out 5 years ago, and it's great. I think Hollywood is part of a 20th century model that just didn't adapt fast enough. It'll always be around. Like radio will always be around. There'll always be music. There'll always be Hollywood, but it's not even the biggest thing now. Video games are. Video games are the biggest form of entertainment by far. They dwarf what Hollywood does in a year, even in their best year. So yeah, there'll always be scripted entertainment, but Hollywood will contract now. And it will be, we're seeing it happen right before our eyes. The old studios are selling out. And it's all going to contract, and it's going to be about 4 entities like it used to be in the beginning, but it's going to be the tech companies. Apple will control some of Hollywood, even though nobody watches their stuff, because they have just all the liquid cash in the world. Netflix is number 1. Amazon will do it till they get bored. So out of those 3 big guns, 2 of them are vanity projects, basically. And Hollywood is scared to death. And Disney is about to go through what Warner Brothers went through. Warner Brothers used to be on top of the world a decade ago. They had Harry Potter. They had Nolan doing Batman. Game of Thrones was doing great. Like they were firing on all cylinders. Now they're billions in debt. Same thing's going to happen to Disney. Who rises up? Maybe Universal. But there'll be 4 or 5 studios running everything again, just like it was in the beginning, just like it has been over the last century. But they're not going to be the biggest thing anymore. Because they're competing against us. They're competing against you. They're like somebody firing up a stream. Now more people are just watching each other, which is great.
So it does seem so easy to bitch about things, but so hard to create. And that actually seems like maybe the trap that many on the like many of the Marxists and the wokesters that have taken over Hollywood, they're like finally learning that trap. That like they bitched about white male dominance and they created whatever they needed to create to go find and knock it down, and now they're stuck with like, well, okay, now you're the creator, go.
Yeah,
right.
I think
and so I guess my question is, how do we not get it caught in that same trap?
He's already doing it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like on a very small scale, but I'm starting out, and so I'm throwing my hat into the ring, making a short film based on my books that I've written. That's not going to change anything in the wider sense, but it's a start, and it's like just an example of the independent scene, I guess, starting to create stuff of our own.
Yes.
And you get this with fan videos, you get other YouTubers who've done crowdfunding to start their own movies, and it's starting to happen. It's like I say, it's on a small scale at the moment, but there's such an enormous pool of people who have creative talent and who have creative visions, and now they have the opportunity to do it, because if they get to a decent level, they can crowdfund it. It's like the democratization of filmmaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eric July's proving this?
Yes. You want to encourage that as much. Eric July, kind of a Renaissance man, does music, he does metal. Has been YouTubing since he was a teenager, and he's a first-time writer. He's never written a book before, so you want to be very encouraging of these independent projects out there, and of the thousands that are going to be spawned. We'll get 5 or 6 that'll rise above, and whatever they are, that becomes the new industry, and that's how independent movements have cycled in throughout entertainment and will continue to do so. Just took a while for this one to get here. Maybe it saves comics. American comics are pretty dead right now. So it's a great opportunity for anybody out there. If you think you can do it, try it. But as far as film, yeah, he's doing a short film. He also writes a book series. This guy right here, Ryan Drake. I got a book coming out later this year.
Really?
So yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, now you know.
A comic book?
No. It's a memoir. So it's kind of like it's not focused on YouTube. It's focused on my sobriety.
Is it called The Folsom Prison Brew?
I couldn't use that one. So
Really?
It's called Waiting for Nerdrotic. So, and it's got some subtitle. I forgot what it was.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's so great.
So it'll come out later this year. But
I look forward to hyping
yeah.
the out of it. And also, the books are published.
Yes, the Ryan
Yeah.
Drake books, they're all
Yeah.
published, and yeah, now we're starting to make movies about them.
Uplifting messages about saving culture. Like, this was kind of, if you go back 100 years, how it all started, right? Like, guys that Walt Disney, we're sitting here inside of, like, the shadow of this empire, obviously, that Disney built, ironically, but started out as, drawing comics, getting totally over by his business partners time and time again, losing his IP, scrappy. And that was not long ago. And he was able to build this empire, and it was 100 years ago, actually. Steamboat Willie, right? Comes out, and this is what can happen in just a generation of creators, like hitting like nose to the grindstone, right? Like fist to the grindstone, like putting their shoulder to the wheel and being creative.
I think ultimately, yeah, when one door closes, another opens, and really with Hollywood, with the mainstream entertainment machine starting to break down, their loss is our gain. It gives opportunities for independent creators to start making their own stuff, and maybe eventually they'll get to that point.
Yeah. Quickly, like they're the gatekeepers. Those gates are crashing down, and now a creator doesn't need to make billions like Walt Disney did. Now you can have a creator of economy of your own with 10,000 people, 5,000 people, 1,000 people, make a living do it, or at least it's a great hobby. So that Hollywood cannot compete against that because they can't pivot fast enough.
Yeah.